What's going on? How are you doing this afternoon? What I'm doing right now is the best thing in the world. It don't cost nothing. It's not hard to do. Because of my geographical location, it's abundant. And that is sunshine and fresh air. I do this a lot, especially because it's important to get that sunshine, man. More so now than ever, you know? You know, I follow all of my peeps pretty closely, and there are quite a few who ain't just, housebound or whatever. But I would definitely not say that it's the majority, you know. And I mean, things like this can go a long way to helping you manage your happiness during times like this. Because it's unfortunate, but all of these things, these many varied things, are pushing people in so many different directions. And you see so many different types of human behavior. Unfortunately, man, it's crazy seeing people manifesting self hatred in a moment where it seems as though people can't find enough people to hate. And I guess it's to be expected, but there's a lot of people practicing self hatred. You know, with people looking at the martyr George Floyd and they look like him. And they find in many a way to justify what happened to him. Which is just, not only is it unbelievable, it's disgusting. If you've ever been a fan of the cartoon The Boondocks, so many people exhibiting that Uncle Ruckus energy. It's just ridiculous. And it's difficult to put your head around, you know. I guess if I'd have lived 100 years before '79 when I was born, it might be a little bit easier to understand because to focus self-hatred inward and to almost cannibalize your own, looking for ways to explain not just the brutality done to you, but almost to explain it away. You know? Let me use myself for an example. I have a criminal record. It's been almost 20 years since I got in any real trouble. You know, but had I been George Floyd, that would not be cool to look back on what happened to you and to see and hear the people that you expect to support you, to keep your name alive, to mourn you, are the ones throwing dirt on your grave. And it's especially painful to see so many brothers and sisters standing up for him and to have other black folks tearing them down because of it. It's bananas, man. But again, I guess that's to be expected. And the strongest amongst the human population, black, white, brown, Asian, whatever, will push through regardless. You know, but hopefully not in a hurtful way, but hopefully those people will eventually one day see what they're saying and doing for what it is, you know, and realize the error in their ways. Because I truly don't get it, man. The Uncle Ruckus types, I don't get how they think going along to get along is going to work out for them. You know? And you can only observe the world from your perspective. You can talk to other people, practice empathy and compassion to try to understand what another person is going through. But your set of eyes and your physical vessel is the only way you get to experience it. And it makes you realize how easily people do a math problem in their head and remove themselves from other people's experiences simply because it's not their own. Since I was born in '79, like I said, that makes me 40 years old. Which, as you age, gives you an adult's view of the world, but I don't think I could ever accept certain things about human nature because I don't embody them and never have, but yet I see other people just, not just willingly, it seems like they have some self-compulsion to do and say these things, you know. And it makes you wonder, were they always that way? Did they always hate themselves? Or did our society and our environment put those things on them? Because all the people that are Latin, Black, any person of color that wears MAGA hats and rolls with Trump. Hold on a second. Hey! Shh! It genuinely makes me think, like, how do they even believe that those folks even care 2 cents about them? You know, along with Sophia! I mean, and furthermore, the people that support Trump that are Caucasian, unless you on the elite level as far as wealth like him, he don't give not 1 single solitary fuck about you. And unfortunately, man, since shit's already going to hell in a handbasket when the train finally goes off the tracks, and he treats you in a way he's always treated you, but you just so riled up by a construct that you can't even see it for yourself. You know, any person that he looks at that's his same skin color, that ain't had the success or the wealth or any of the things that he's experienced, he looks straight down his nose at like y'all trash, man. And I guess this dichotomy in this way becomes a similarity because you have the poor white folks that support Trump being driven by bias, by politics, and then you have the people of color that voted for him that don't even realize, like, it ain't gonna be no I voted for you, we're best buddies, I'm gonna treat you good. The minute he get the chance and it don't benefit him, he gonna drop you like a bad habit. Then you read stories of, for instance, I read the story of a Mexican American soldier who voted for Trump. And shortly after Trump got elected, he deported his wife. And he was still like an adamant Trump supporter. I swear it's like we live in bizarro world, man. And there's so many things that we could be better as a species to unlearn and or relearn, you know, because it's been taught to us improperly, or the way it's been taught is for a certain view, a certain slant, you know, so that it's not only received in a certain way, that it affects behavior in a certain way, you know. I have no choice but to be who I am. It is different, you know, having parents of two different races, you know. But it doesn't change my experience as a human being, you know. And I'll never understand how someone who has had an experience different than mine, how they're unable to do the same things I do when I observe another person, which is looking at someone. So, like, I got neighbors from all over the world. I got neighbors from the Congo. I got neighbors from Pakistan. I got neighbors from Mexico. I got white neighbors. I got black neighbors. I got neighbors from India. And I've never once looked at any of these people and thought to myself that their experience was different than mine. You know, on a macro level, not the small things that because of, you know, my birth location and things I grew up around, I don't mean that. You know, I just mean how people look at, you know, their own tribal identity, and everything outside of that is another threat or foreign. And all of it makes for a unique recipe because at the same time when black folks is facing a lot of hate, black culture, black people come from a place of love. And you can see it throughout history, man. And that's where I'll rewind right here to having parents of two different races. Because both sides of my family and that experience didn't prepare me for people outside my home that look just like them, you know? Like my mom's family, for instance, you know? Nobody in my mom's family ever, you know, like overtly treated me bad. So then as a child, you go out into the world and you see people that look like your mother, your grandma, your aunts, your cousins, and they don't act like the people at home or your extended family. You're like, wait a minute, what part of the game is this? You know? And it's also unique, the life I had, because outside of my white family, I didn't really know any white people. I had white friends, but about 8 of them, you know. And it was unique once I took off and went to different states. I've lived on 3 different sides of the country, 3 tangibly different places. Got to meet and see and experience things I would have never experienced if I never changed my zip code. That, along with getting a college education, it gave me a small amount of insight as I aged and as I lived that I wish other people could have. But unfortunately, you know, it's not how it works all the time, man. Depending on who you are, what your last name is, what you pray like, you might get denied those opportunities. And at the same time, it's mind-boggling to see people not understand what's going on. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I don't know half of the history we learned in school was a lie. But once you get to a certain age or a certain grade, like maybe 10th grade or something, you realize, like, wait a minute, a lot of this shit ain't matching up. But instead of finding your own path and recognizing truth for what it is, people carry that shit on. And they carry it into adulthood and end up taking lies that they know are lies and living them. you know. But one of the determining factors being wealth, you know, there are few there are a few people of color who get to experience the privilege that wealth brings. You know, and just like some of the Caucasian people who use privilege or benefit from privilege that are having a hard time understanding some of these things, those people look at it the same way too. You know, and to me, it's like I've had plenty of times in my life where I was in a lot better position financially than I am now. But that never determined the way I valued other people. You know, like human value, the value of a life. You know, how much does character account for? How important is morals? You know, and I feel like the one good thing that's coming out of this is people from my generation and the generation before, and including the oldest generation, like the people in their 60s and 70s, they they chose not to go against the grain so far to where it, you know, to change the dynamic. Because the last time it happened, a lot of people didn't make it. But what's positive about it is this young generation, I have a more than moderate amount of hope that because of proof that they're going to be the ones to change, to make these changes. Because even a lot of the things that I saw, and even some of the things I thought when I was ignorant, that they would ever change in my lifetime, you know. Because if the old guard ain't willing to make these changes, you know, the new blood gonna make the changes for them. And it won't be much longer before these more open-minded, progressive, care about everybody, not just yourself folks, is gonna be in charge and be able to make the decisions. You know, the same way a lot of young people in the civil rights movement put the foot on the gas pedal. I love doing this with no bullet points and no topics because a lot of times these type of things is what get me the most direct messages, the most contact with people interacting with me and speaking to me about what they think, you know, and that's rewarding. I want to keep going and I got more points to hit, but I can't have my dogs out in direct sunlight in like 100 degrees for much longer. So I'll holler at you shortly.